Good morning vlog. It is it is Tuesday, March 19th. And I am going through a little bit of preparation for my online presence, I guess. I have my YouTube videos, my Snapchat videos rather, downloaded onto my computer. I'm getting some of them scheduled. I'm now at a point where I should be exactly 1 week ahead in terms of video production and then posting it to YouTube. So yeah, if you're watching this video now on YouTube, it is actually Tuesday, March 26th. So yeah, this is from 1 week prior. There's a little bit of delay, but once again, that's for me to just be kind of ahead of the curve and not have to worry about the constant deadline of is like, will I have this in time for posting it tomorrow? So that helps take some pressure off me, and definitely helps me prepare adequately for getting this kind of content machine up and running, so to speak. What also I've done is I've prepped the next episode of the podcast of the Messiah Upper Room podcast that I'm going to be editing, and this one isn't going to be scheduled to publish until the 27th, so a week from tomorrow, because I already have the one that's set for tomorrow to be published already ready to go. But I was thinking for this time around, I was going to do a screen capture and a narration of what I'm doing, just to help provide kind of a blueprint of my working process. And the reason why I'm doing that is to kind of provide just a template, a tool, another tool in the tool case, if you will, for someone who may want to either do something similar to what I'm doing, or someone who may want to take over the editing process for this podcast at my church, but they don't really have much to go on. So I'm deciding to record my working process, narrate what I'm doing, and show it at the same time, and provide those in-depth explanations of why I'm doing what I'm doing and what exactly I am doing. And I won't upload that to this channel. I will eventually link it, I guess, but I have an entirely separate account, YouTube account that I've created for the Messiah Upper Room podcast. And that's kind of more for just future-proofing and adding another layer of autonomy for the podcast itself. Just, in case somebody feels like, hey, you know what, you're doing too much right now, let me take some off your plate. Or I feel like I would like to go ahead and take over the mantle on editing and sending out the podcast on this. Then I have like a whole series of accounts that I can just wrap up into a nice little package and say, here you go. Here is everything Messiah Upper Room podcast related. This is the password this is the login for our podcast distribution platform. Here is the YouTube, Gmail. Here is the website information, XYZ. I have all that neatly packaged up and ready to go, and whoever then takes over that mantle will, if they look on the YouTube page, they'll have a plethora of information that will show what I've done pretty much every step along the way. And they'll also have all the video assets in the Google Drive that I've put in there, all the graphical assets as well. They'll also find an archive of all the final mastered MP3s that we've published for the podcast on there as well. And hopefully they'll just be able to discover and find a whole plethora of information that I've left behind, just in case that ever happens. I'm not saying that it will, but just in case. I don't know. It doesn't hurt to be prepared, Scouts. It's a Scout's way. Boy Scout, always be prepared. There we go. But anyway, that is what I've been up to this morning. I have my trusty coffee. I have my trusty caffeine molecule shirt. I am ready to tackle the day. And it's time to go to work. Bum ba-dum. I don't know why I'm singing. Right on, just on lunch break right now, outside, getting some vitamin D, enjoying the nice weather before it gets too incredibly hot. There's a very small window in the state of Texas where the weather is like just right. It might be a little bit on the cooler side right now, but I like it. I don't mind. This is definitely a lot better than when it gets in the 90s to 100 degrees on the average during the summer, which isn't that too much farther away. But anyway, just walking around outside, trying to get a little bit more exercise in, and get some fresh air. I'm also using this as some time to do some brainstorming, I guess, and find out what I might be able to do in terms of finding a thumbnail image for the new podcast that we recorded last night. I didn't really think it too much out because we didn't even have a name. Now that we have a name for the podcast, now I can make a thumbnail or something. And maybe it might end up me just putting something together really quick myself, or I might go on to Fiverr and see if somebody will do that for me for inexpensive, or I'm thinking maybe I can even go on to Craigslist or Facebook or something and just throw it out there like, hey, does anybody want to just make a thumbnail image for our latest podcast? Here's the name, here's what it's about. Let that be your inspiration and go wild. And so the point there is that I don't have a lot of money right now to be blowing it all on creative services that can be rather pricey if you want it done really well. Hey, I understand that you got to pay if you want top quality, but for right now, I'm trying to just hack the expenses that I have, that I'm facing right now, and I can either do it myself or find somebody that's willing to do it for cheap, for inexpensive, or for exposure. Do like a little trade-off there. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm coming to find, I'm doing a lot more stuff for other people for free, for kind of exposure, that goodwill investment, so to speak. And so I'm just going to need to, I guess, dig down into the more creative circle of friends that I know, potentially some more of the artsy types in even my circle of fraternity brothers, or even, going out onto Craigslist and soliciting, hey, is somebody willing to make this for some exposure for free? We'll credit you or whatever you need. The only thing is I can't really give you cash right now, or at least I can't give you that much cash. So that's just what I'm trying to hack through right now with this new podcast idea, and for future podcasts as well, whenever I decide to make those. Finally done with work, and now that I'm on my way back home, I am going to meet up with my other pastor this evening. Finally, after a 2-week delay, we'll finally be able to touch back up and work on the podcast ideas that he has. Have a couple of updates on that, more that I'll share later. Hoping I'll be able to actually record like a full session this time, just for my own notes, I guess, and that just another brainstorming session to see what we can do in the future. Once again, wasn't able to get a video session with Pastor Wilmer, but that's okay. We did have a good chat, which I can go a little bit more in depth once I get home, because I need to get out of this complex and run a couple of errands for my wife before heading back. So back at home, and did all the chores that I needed to do, got all that out of the way. Wanted to do a quick recap over what we discussed in this follow-up session with my church's associate pastor, Pastor Welmer, and I recorded audio of most of what we talked about. and maybe I'll be able to reference that later. Maybe, I don't know, I might turn it into like an audio blurb or something later. But I mean, really what we did was we solidified our plan to kind of turn his weekly men's lunch Bible study into a podcast. And we discussed some ways that we can go about capturing the audio, even potentially capturing video, so we can make even more content in that way. And Pastor Welmer even discussed that he was wanting to resurrect his, pardon the pun, resurrect his blog. And I was like, yes, go for it. If you feel compelled to write, and you have the bandwidth to do that, by all means do that. Like, you want to put out your content, no matter whether it's, it's something you're passionate about, like, some niche subject that you're interested in, or whether it's your livelihood in some brand that you believe in, or even if it is something like a religious passion. So if you're a pastor and your goal is to reach out to as many people as possible and to spread the word of God in whichever way you feel is necessary or fits you, then by all means go do. And in whatever form people consume it in, preferably any form and every form, if you have the ability to do that. So that means for today's applications, podcast, video on YouTube or Vimeo, Facebook, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, IGTV, Twitter even, also, and then also in written form. So you have copy for all those platforms that you would write out. You have long form blog posts that you can better formulate. Some people are better gifted with writing, and they can definitely form out and outline their thoughts a lot better in text form for people to read online and at their leisure. You can even take that blog post and narrate it into a podcast episode. Or you can, I suggested to him, you write a blog post and then you just sit in front of a camera and you do a mini sermon, like right in front of the camera, to your audience that is online in this device here, through this device, people that are consuming your content, consuming the word, and getting spiritually fed through your words, your video, and your theological thoughts and discussion points. So just going out there and doing it. The key point is to just go and do it. So I'm pushing him the best that I can in that direction to help him to help him along that path, and I'm willing to do what I can to help him succeed, and I'm very excited for it. And I mean, I told him, even if if you're uncomfortable talking in front of the camera, like I was incredibly uncomfortable talking in front of the camera, but now now that I've done it every single day for what seems like the past 2 months almost now, I don't know, a month and a half. Anyway, I've gotten a lot more comfortable with talking in front of the camera, treating kind of this camera as another person that I'm communicating with, just one way though right now. We'll work on the two-way later. But I mean, if he needs help getting comfortable in front of the camera, then I'll just sit there and he can preach to me while I'll take that in and we'll get it on camera, and we can post it later on YouTube or his personal YouTube account or wherever, just so he can get that content machine up and running. Because that was kind of more the center point that I wanted to make of this discussion, was that being able to recognize what your pillar content is going to be. So for Pastor Welmer, that pillar content can be his weekly men's Bible study, lunch Bible study, and then also it can be the blog posts that he writes for like on whatever subject he chooses. He can't, like, if it's on theological subjects, then he can make a sermon out of it because he's already had it written down. He obviously has more thoughts about it. So make that your pillar content and record just you vamping and ranting and raving in front of the camera, getting all that down. And then you can take all that recording, all that content, and rehash it to redistribute on Facebook, on Instagram. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. It just be like the short little nuggets. That's what I'm going to try and do with this video that I'm doing right now. I'm going on this multi-minute rant in order to get all my thoughts out onto video in hopefully a cohesive manner that other people can understand. If not, I'll just snip it up and edit it. But like, that's the whole thing. That's the whole point, is to just capture it at the very least, document it, get it on record, so that you have that content that you can later use. And it doesn't have to be as timely. You don't have to immediately publish it out to the world just because you recorded it. That was one point that I wanted, that I needed to get across a little bit clearer, was that, okay, so you're recording the audio for that men's lunch Bible study. You'll have a camera at the back of the room recording video, and you don't have to publish both at the same time. Sure, you take the audio, you put that out as a podcast. That's one. You then take the video, sync the audio with that, so you have high quality audio, and you can post the whole entire thing on your YouTube channel if you want. That's two. Now you take that whole entire video that you've already posted to YouTube, fine, but you can then edit it and snip out the little theological nuggets, as I like to call them earlier, just the little points that really strike a certain point, a certain idea. They get a certain idea across, a certain point, a certain notion. Anyway, you get the point. I'm saying point too much. Anyway, so then you rehash those videos. You edit out the unnecessary bits. And what works on Instagram isn't exactly going to work on Facebook. It is not going to exactly work on Twitter. It is not going to work and what works on Twitter is not going to work on LinkedIn. You have to make it and tailor it specifically for the platform. How do you do that? How do you know how to do that, rather? Like, you can either look it up online or just trial and error. The more that you make, the more that you learn, the better that you'll get. But you have that main pillar piece of content, the long form, that you then rehash to the short form that you can then tailor to the specific platforms. That's the key. So I hope I was able to get that across. I hope I got that across here now and on this record. And so now I'm going to have to practice what I'm preaching myself and just take this video, rehash it a little bit, throw it up on Instagram or on Facebook or wherever, and hopefully I'll get some engagement. Hopefully I'll help somebody learn something about what to do on these specific platforms. That's all I've been trying to do now, is learning myself so I can teach others. And I just am thankful that you are along for the ride. You've been watching me this long. I guess you either enjoy it or you maybe you have enjoyment to see me potentially fail. Either way, I'm appreciative of it either way. So yeah, there we go. But for now, it is getting quite late, so I'm about to call it a night, and then I'll hit it up again bright and early in the morning. I'll upload some more YouTube videos. I may also work on editing the podcast a little bit, get ahead for the next week episode, because I'm already done with this week's episode. That's over and done with. I have a wonderful area of, like, not leisure time, but less pressure to get it done by the deadline, because it's pushed out a week now. So that's the whole point why we're recording these episodes ahead of time. Anyway, I'm just rambling on because I guess I'm tired. I hope you have a great night. I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday coming up tomorrow. And just crush it for your next day.